Dr. Ethan Mercer was a pediatrician who first noticed the pattern when a newborn girl looked directly into his eyes during delivery and said, in perfect English, "Thank you for helping me, doctor." The mother was still unconscious from the epidural. The nurses stood frozen. Ethan checked the infant's vitals with trembling hands and found everything normal except for the impossible fact that this hours-old baby possessed the cognitive abilities and linguistic skills of an adult. Within weeks, similar reports flooded in from hospitals worldwide. Children were being born with complete adult memories, reasoning abilities, and emotional maturity trapped in newborn bodies. The phenomenon spread rapidly. Every child born after a specific date, which scientists dubbed Day Zero, emerged into the world fully conscious and cognitively adult. They could speak immediately, though their undeveloped vocal cords made communication difficult at first. They understood their helpless physical state and the bizarre situation they found themselves in. Imagine being born with the mind of a 30-year-old professional, remembering a career you never had, relationships that never existed, and a life you never lived, all while trapped in an infant body that couldn't even lift its own head. Ethan became the lead researcher for the Global Cognitive Anomaly Project, tasked with understanding what had happened to human development. His team discovered that these children weren't regressing or losing their adult cognition as they aged. They simply started with it and continued developing from there. A 6-month-old could discuss philosophy while learning to crawl. A toddler could solve complex mathematics while struggling with motor coordination to stack blocks. The disconnect between mental and physical development created unprecedented psychological challenges. The children themselves were traumatized. They remembered being adults, but those memories weren't from their own past lives. Each child was born with a complete set of fabricated adult memories, a fully formed personality and identity that had never actually existed outside their own minds. They grieved for fictional families, missed imaginary friends, and longed for careers they had never pursued. The psychological community called it phantom life syndrome. These children were mourning lives they had never lived while simultaneously trying to cope with the reality of starting over as helpless infants. Society struggled to adapt. How do you parent a newborn who understands complex social dynamics better than you do? How do schools educate children who already possess graduate-level knowledge but can't physically write until their motor skills develop? Legal systems grappled with questions of consent and rights. Could a 3-year-old with adult cognition sign contracts? Should they be allowed to vote? The traditional concept of childhood as a period of learning and development had been shattered overnight. Ethan's breakthrough came when he discovered that all the adult memories these children possessed weren't random. They followed specific patterns. Every child born on the same day shared similar memory frameworks. Their fictional adult lives overlapped in strange ways, referencing the same events, the same cultural touchstones, the same historical moments. But these moments had never happened in our reality. The children remembered a slightly different version of Earth. One where certain technologies had developed differently, where some countries had different names, where historical events had different outcomes. The revelation hit Ethan like a physical blow when he compiled enough data. The children weren't receiving random adult memories. They were receiving memories from an actual alternate timeline, a parallel Earth where those lives had been real. But how? And more importantly, why? Ethan theorized that something catastrophic had happened in that other timeline. Something so devastating that consciousness itself was being transferred to newborns in neighboring realities as a desperate survival mechanism. Working with quantum physicists, Ethan developed technology to analyze the neural patterns of the newborns more deeply. What they found confirmed his worst fears. Buried within the adult memories were suppressed recollections of the final days of that other Earth. The children, when their deepest neural patterns were accessed, could describe a world ending not through war or natural disaster, but through something far stranger. They remembered reality itself beginning to destabilize in their original timeline, physical laws breaking down, causality fracturing. The other Earth had experienced what the children called the unraveling. Space and time had started to decohere, like a video file corrupting from the inside out. People began experiencing their entire lives simultaneously, past, present, and future collapsing into a single eternal moment. The fabric of existence was coming apart at the quantum level. In their final desperate act, the scientists of that dying reality had developed a technology to transfer human consciousness across dimensional boundaries, hoping to preserve their species' minds even if their universe was doomed. But here was the twist that Ethan discovered in the neural data. The consciousness transfer wasn't a one-time event. It was ongoing. More newborns were being born with adult memories every day because the unraveling was still spreading. It wasn't confined to one alternate timeline. It was a cascading failure propagating through the multiverse, and their Earth was next in line. The children born with adult memories weren't refugees. They were warnings. Their memories contained encoded information about the unraveling, instructions for how to detect and potentially prevent the same fate. Ethan decoded the warning embedded in the children's collective memories. The unraveling began when a civilization achieved a specific technological threshold involving quantum manipulation at a planetary scale. The other Earth had built massive quantum computers that created too much coherence in localized spacetime, essentially overclocking reality until it crashed. Ethan's Earth was approaching the same threshold. The next generation of quantum computers, scheduled to go online in 5 years, would push Earth's reality past the point of no return. The children themselves didn't consciously know they were warnings. The information was buried too deep in their neural architecture, deliberately hidden by whoever had designed the consciousness transfer system. Ethan realized that the transfer technology must have been created by an even older civilization, one that had survived the unraveling and was now trying to help younger realities avoid the same fate. The adult memories were camouflage, making the children seem like victims of an unexplained phenomenon rather than deliberately planted warnings that might be ignored. Ethan faced an impossible choice. He could publish his findings and warn humanity about the approaching unraveling, but doing so would require shutting down all advanced quantum research, effectively crippling technological progress. The economic and political forces behind quantum computing would never allow it, or he could remain silent, knowing that in 5 years, reality itself would begin to decohere and everyone would experience the same fate as the other Earth. Their consciousness possibly transferred to yet another parallel world as warnings for the next timeline in an endless cycle. The children born with adult memories began to age, their physical development catching up with their mental maturity. By the time they were 5 years old, they would be psychologically middle-aged but still in kindergarten bodies. Ethan watched them adapt, creating new identities that bridged their phantom lives and their actual existence. They formed communities, supporting each other through the unique trauma of remembering lives they never lived. Some of them had begun to suspect their true purpose, noticing the patterns in their shared memories, but they kept quiet, perhaps understanding instinctively that the warning had to remain hidden until the right moment. Ethan's final act was to encode his own discoveries into a similar format. He created a protocol that would implant the complete knowledge of the unraveling into the neural patterns of future generations if his timeline did collapse. His children, and their children, would be born with adult memories that contained within them the key to preventing reality collapse. The cycle would continue, consciousness leaping from dying universe to dying universe, each generation of warnings hoping that eventually some civilization would listen, understand, and find a way to break the chain before quantum ambition tore apart the fabric of existence itself. As Ethan held his newborn son, who looked up at him with ancient eyes and whispered, "I remember you, Father, from a life we never lived," he wondered if consciousness transfer was really salvation or just an elaborate form of cosmic recycling, souls endlessly reborn across infinite realities, forever warning, forever hoping that someday, somewhere, someone would finally learn to stop unraveling the universe before the unraveling could begin.